Hello everyone, this is James Martin, also known as Solid Snack, and I'm talking about the frozen food option of Star Wars CCG, also known as Echo Base Operations. Older players will remember Echo Base Operations as one of the first deck strategies Decipher came out with. The card has not been virtualized as a testament to its good design. You'll be pleased to know that this deck is still a formidable and playable one in the open format, with this deck making a top 8 cut at Worlds in 2021. Many players will already have the cards in their old collections, as there are only a couple key Episode 1 cards. And many of the cards in this deck were available in black and white border, both in English and Japanese, and some of the key cards receive reflections foils. Also, most of the cards I'm talking about can be had for pennies on the dollar, and there are only 3 to 5 expensive cards in the deck, depending on your style of play. The premise of the deck is the same as before. Build your base, establish a space presence, and then try to hold a site on the ground. If your opponent places space, your job is to punish that play with as much overwhelming power as possible. The starting cards are the Hoth system and Careful Planning B. Careful Planning B allows you to deploy the main power generators and do the Hoth energy shield rules. You'll then be able to get the 4th marker, provided the 4th, 5th, 6th, or 7th marker aren't already on table from your opponent. You'll want to read up about the Hoth energy shield rules as they've changed since the Decipher era. The shield protects the 1st through 3rd marker and all your echo sites, so that means that your opponent cannot deploy directly to those sites, and as a result those sites are never battlegrounds while the shield is active. Your 3 effects are a new secret base, which allows you to pull echo sites, as well as the Echo Base Operations effect, and then will allow you to get your systems later after you've built your base. Your second effect you're looking for is Walkling. This is probably the most expensive card in the deck, but it's an important one for most light side decks here. Your force generation is going to be +1. You can place the effect out of play to retrieve a force, and once per game you can use 3 force to upload an effect that has no deploy cost and deploys another card. You're looking at Haven or Projection of a Skywalker for that pull. The last one's going to be Strike Planning. Strike Planning allows you to twice per game take a general into hand, which is going to be General Carlos Rican or General Dodonna in this deck. And your opponent's force generation on Endor is cancelled unless Endor Operations is on table. Turn 1 is typical. Remember, with your pulls here, you're going to want to take the cards into hand before you activate to have as much of a chance to get your key cards into hand. You're going to pull Echo Sites that you may not have in your hand already. Obviously prioritize the War Room because it gives you additional force, and General Carlos Rican deploys -1 to a War Room. You're also going to want to pull your generals turn 1. Carlos Rican's awesome because he deploys cheap to the War Room. While he's at the War Room, your capital ships can't be targeted by weapons, which includes the Super Laser. He has that sort of power. And your Rebels and T-47s at same or related Rebel-based locations may move for free to same or related locations. That allows your characters to move around Hoth and for your characters to shuttle down from Hoth for cheap. General Dodonna is pretty good because he gets you a Y-Wing, typically Gold Leader and Gold 1, which will deploy cheap with all of your effects and has some awesome power. Anytime if you get Rebel Leadership, or if you don't have Rebel Leadership because it's too expensive, use Critical Error Reveal as the underlying card for the combo card to pull Admiral Raddus. While Rebel Leadership is probably a little bit better because it allows you to add a Battle Destiny, you'll find that in your matchups you aren't typically looking to add Battle Destinies, you're typically looking to limit your opponent, so the combo card is just as good. At any rate, if you do get this, you're going to want to pull Admiral Raddus. Admiral Raddus goes down for free, making it a lot easier to deploy Echo Base Operations, and he pulls a Hammerhead Corvette, which is the Light Maker, which is really nice because it cancels your opponent's immunity to attrition. So once you deploy your 2 sites and your 2 generals, you're going to pass turn. Turn 2 is when you're going to try to flip Echo Base, or not flip, but deploy Echo Base Operations. You're going to pull your site that you hopefully, if you don't have it in your hand already, you're going to pull your last site and as well as the Echo Base Operations. Keep in mind, all you need to do is occupy 3 Echo sites to deploy Echo Base Operations. So if you didn't get Raddus for whatever reason, you could deploy, say, like a Y-Wing, your Gold Leader and Gold 1 to the Echo Docking Bay, or your 2 vehicles, Dash and Rove 12, or Blue 11 to the Docking Bay in order to get those 3 sites to deploy Echo Base Operations. Turn 2, though, you are going to get Echo Base operations down and try to get Haven on Hoth, and then deploy as much of your Starship fleet to Hoth that you have. So you should at least have in your hand Gold Leader and Gold 1, which should go down for free because it's -1 due to Echo Base operations and -2 due to Haven, as well as the Light Maker, which will go down to 2 force. So if nothing else, you'll at least have those items there. Again, you see there that your deploy is -1 at every system location, your force strengths are +2, and your total power is +3 in battles at all system locations when you deploy Echo Base operations. Turn 3, you're going to want to, if you have the cards for it, establish a presence on ground. Keep in mind you can take advantage of your benefit of Echo Base operations as well as Haven to deploy your characters to Hoth. Your pilots are going to go down for -2, starships are going to go down for -3. Even your vehicles will deploy -1 to Haven here, so you can deploy something like Dash and Rogue 12 for cheaper, and then shuttle down using General Carlos Rican's text for free to the 4th marker there. You're going to want some combination of, say, like Hera, Solo, and Rey to kind of hold the 4th marker site there. From there, you're going to establish a second system, maybe a third, depending on your cards in hand. Try to outdamage your opponent, all the time mitigating damage with cards such as It Could Be Worse, We're Doomed, and control tunnel visions for nasty force drains. Of course, if your opponent ever comes down to a system, you just want to deck them with as many cards as possible by deploying your overwhelming fleet and outpowering them. A couple of tips for this deck. You have a couple ships that deploy as a react, including Red 8, Spiral, and Tycho and Greed Squadron 3. Because they deploy as a react, it's often a good idea to hold these cards back and react to where your opponent is. If your opponent never comes, then it's good to remove these cards from your hand and lose them to force drains, and therefore it prevents you from over deploying, which you may have a propensity to do because everything seems to deploy very cheap. Holding these cards for when you really need them, for when your opponent actually does come down in battle, is going to be helpful to make sure that, again, you don't over deploy, and then you can overwhelm your opponent once they do come down. What's nice about this deck is it does have some flexibility here. You can mix and match capital ships and starfighters as you please. If you would like to, as a second option here for your fleet, you can use General Wallach's Blizzix. General Blizzix V essentially prevents your opponent from drawing multiple battle destinies where you have 2 piloted snub fighters. So if you find that you're playing a lot of X-Wings, Y-Wings, A-Wings, B-Wings, Z95s even, you can use him, and he can potentially even cut out your commands. So if you like using those sort of starships, consider using him, and then maybe throwing some fun items like X-Wing laser cannons to pair well with those starfighters that you're using. If you're using capital ships, make sure you take advantage of General Carlos Rican's text to prevent weapons fire on them. Maybe using somebody like Bail Organa to prevent weapons from attacking your corvettes at other locations would be useful there. What's nice is the deck can accommodate a wide variety of starship types. I've even seen Home 1 and Admiral Akbar in these decks very easily. Another popular build uses T-47 speeders. So instead of the package that we have here with Dash and Rogue 12 and Blue 11, as well as Solo, Rey, and Poe, you can instead use Commander Luke with Echo Base Garrison. The nice thing about Echo Base Garrison is your established secret base can pull him, or pull this effect, and then it allows you to get Hoth Luke, Special Edition Wedge, which they virtualized and is really good, Zev or Hobby, and then you'll use some combination of Commander Luke, who pulls T-47s, There you go. Commander Luke, you can see uploads a speeder or card with T-47 in game text during your control phase, or even combined fleet action as an admiral's order here. Once per turn during your deploy phase, you may deploy one combat vehicle from reserve deck. This also limits battle destinies at sites related to systems you occupy, which cuts the potential danger at the 4th marker there. So this is an alternate build you can use by building those speeders into this deck as something else for you can use as a ground package. Essentially, you'll be able to pull any of your pilots using Echo Base Garrison, and then either use Commander Luke or combined fleet action to pull your speeders, and that would be something where you can use to deploy and hold the 4th marker. Typically, Luke, Rogue 1, Wedge, and Rogue 3 are good enough to hold that site. The deck can struggle against fast damage, so losing a key card early can prevent you from playing EBO at all. Hunt Down Virtual is a terrible matchup for this deck, as can be Walkers if you don't have the right cards. Still, just about against any other deck that can remain competitive, and you should find that ruling the sky should be no issue. With a bit of playing, you'll be able to switch in and out cards that suit your style, be it Starship Weapons, Incom Engineer for added battle destiny all throughout Hoth, or for more ground punch. The deck does have a lot of longevity. The deck, as played here, has Luke Skywalker for some additional retrieval, Walker sighting for retrieval that your opponent will want to play code clearance for. As I mentioned earlier, it could be worse. Control Tunnel Vision, we're doomed to limit damage. So when it gets down to those last few cards, it can stick around for a long time here. Undercover Spies are also great because they're typically not doing anything more than deploying to your 4th marker, so your Undercover Spies will help you mitigate damage at other locations. Again, you'll be able to switch in and out your spicy tech. You can see this deck has Lieutenant Tarn Myson, who's a CCG favorite, as well as proton torpedoes to really hammer those ships that hold lots of pilots, say like the Executor or something like that. Again, it'll be able to suit whatever build you have and cards in your pool, and I hope you enjoy the deck.